And welcome to another video here at Customs Manager. So I've been recently asked by one of my clients to do another follow-up video on how to complete an IPAFFS notification. Now, I had done that in the past, but now the IPAFFS format has changed significantly. And so here's another update video. I'm going to log on to the IPAFFS system and walk you through it. So if you want to come with me and check out how that works, let's do it. It's always interesting when you Google something, you see what other people are looking for. And look, take a look here. There's so much on IPAFFS. Pre-notifications, the first one, and that's what we're going to talk about. There's so much more we could talk about, CDS mismatch, all of that. But we are going to focus on the pre-notification. So if you don't know what IPAFFS is, then you know it's a pre-notification system. Pretty straightforward, right? So let's go to Google or whichever search engine you use, and then click on IPAFFS or type in IPAFFS, and that's going to get you to the pre-notifications. You will see a site that looks a little bit like this. And right here on the top, you have IPAFFS. And it says importers and import agent must use IPAFFS to notify authorities in Great Britain before the following goods are, and then they start to list. And you can see that this is, first of all, this IPAFFS word stands for import of products of animals, food, and feed systems. So that's what that is. It has to do with Great Britain, and then it deals with live animals and animal byproducts. And then it says here something about pre-notification customs import declaration. So why don't we have, before we go into the IPAFFS system, have a quick look into that information, and then we're going to make sense of the system itself, just for those that have not been dealing with IPAFFS so much. So let's have a quick look at that. Click on this link, you would get to the plant health portal. So that means we're now not in animals and products of animal origin. We're now talking about plants. So that second link got you there. And it talks about the past. It talks about 2022, but it gives you quite interesting information into these IPAFFS systems. And you read through, you'll see there is the pre-notification, a DEFRA pre-notification, and then you know that DEFRA is the Department of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, so to speak. And so they require your consignment to be pre-notified at least 4 hours in advance of arriving in Great Britain. That 4 hour requirement will remain in place until the 30th of June 2022 for PUAO and ABP, and indefinitely for plants and plant products. Okay, so there's a lot of words that are already happening. So PUAO, it stands for product of animal origin. So that's a product that has some animal content. What's animal content? Well, milk from the cow, for example, or meat, right? Obvious one, eggs, honey, all of that stuff is PUAO, product of animal origin. So we need to pre-notify DEFRA of the arrival of these consignments at least 4 hours before. And then ABP stands for animal byproducts, right? So, well, that's all the goods that you get from processing the animals. And that also includes pet foods, but that that could also anything that when for example the slaughtering happens is not a product that you traditionally would consume necessarily. So not the meats, but maybe the horns or the tail, oxtail, for example, might be considered an animal byproduct. No, it would depend. Some people eat it, I guess. So regardless, there is a pre-notification required, and you'll see that there is a 4 hour requirement as per this sentence. Now that has changed in the meantime. I'm just telling you what you can read and how to read these things. So there you also see there's training videos, and there is a guide on how to create a complete IPAFFS notification available on the microsite. So all of this information you can figure out and read yourself. This video is just to tell you how how I complete the IPAFFS that we're completing for our clients. This is also something that we cover in our training, our SPS training. That's 4 hours long, and this is where we, just like that, we'll meet and we'll discuss these practical things of how to navigate websites, but also how to practically put in an IPAFFS notification. So it's kind of an explainer of how to do it. So the first thing you'll see is lots of references to IPAFFS and also training videos, how to create a guide, so you can literally follow that step by step as well. Now clicked on the first link, and now I'm on the IPAFFS system of gov.uk. Now gov.uk is the place where all the information regarding imports, exports, and really anything else to do with government go. And as such, also the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, DEFRA, as well as the Animal and Plant Health Agency, they go there and they put the information. You can see here when it was published in the last updates. And then it says, gives you here information about how to register for IPAFFS. So you need to register first, then to check the import rules before you start, get help, and if you need help with the customs declaration. So all quite useful, very useful stuff that you might need to know. And then it tells you in very plain language what is going down here. So importers and import agent must use IPAFFS to notify authorities in Great Britain. So note first, this is for Great Britain, and this is for, therefore, England, Scotland, and Wales. So if you're importing into these countries, then that's the place where this is what you need to be using. And this is for goods coming from the EU, so EU27, but also non-EU countries. And it concerns live animals, germinal products, animal byproducts, as I said, then high-risk food and feed of not animal origin that has a geographical component. So certain nuts from certain countries might have a higher risk of including substances that are not healthy. Products of animal origin, composite food products. So this is where you kind of mix products that contain animal origin-based products with none, I guess. Cream liquor could be one because it has some egg in it, and also some alcohol, and or certain pizzas. Lasagna is a good example of a composite food, I think. And then there are so-called medium and high-risk plants and plant products. So lots of these need to be notified using this IPAFFS system, and you register for IPAFFS here, and it tells you that what you need first, you need a government gateway account, so that is then something that you have to set up. And then you'll be able to register for DEFRA and services, including the IPAFFS services. And yeah, it gives you more details on how you do that. There are also quite a lot of import rules that you need to check regarding relevant product categories. So if it's live animals, then it will give you the link here. Animal byproducts will give you the link here, and so on and so on and so on. And then it will also tell you what you need to do before. So there is this part where you need to think about health certificates. And that in itself is a monstrum of work. So we can't get into that right now. But fair to say, if you don't have a health certificate and you need one, then this entire thing doesn't make sense. You don't need to think about IPAFFS unless you have checked, first of all, by checking the import rules, that you need a health certificate. And once you have decided that you do need one, then you need to be doing this. You need to be completing this part. And then there's also interesting, very, very interesting wide range of email addresses that you can email if you need any support. And that in particularly includes, anything to do with IPAFFS. And then HMRC is there for you if you need help with the customs declaration. So far, so hopefully pretty quite straightforward. So what we're going to do today, going to click at Start Now, and then we're going to get started and take a look what's behind the Start Now. So I'll use my government gateway address to log on, and that would be the next screen. So you log in with your government gateway express, then you follow the security system. So you get a notification on your phone or by email, and then that has a number, and then that number you tie in. So it's this two-way factor verification to make sure you are the legit user of this account. So we're just going to skip that and go straight into the IPAFFS. You ready? Well, let's do it. Yeah, let's navigate this first page here. So what do we see when we log on first is your import notifications. So it says create a new clarification, or you can clone a certificate. So if you've done a certificate and you know this is going to be a regular shipment and this comes in every week, then you might just want to clone it. And then if you click clone, it will repopulate everything that you've done previously. And that can be very good because that means then, you very much less work, and maybe in about 5 minutes, you can do an IPAFFS notification. Now, I've said the two things that you need to know about this is, number one, the pre-notification timeline. So I told you that was 4 hours, but that was guidance from 2022. We're now in a different period. So now it is up to 24 hours, and which can be derogated to 4 hours. And you got to check the rules. And this is really important if you have fresh produce that can't stay they can't be notified 24 hours before you enter. So imagine you're collecting fish from the sea in France, and that needs to be in Billingate's market the next day. No, that's not wrong. All right, within 4 hours. So fresh fish in the UK soil needs to be sold very quickly to the restaurant so that the guests can eat it in the same day. And so therefore it needs to find its way from the the catch region in the sea onto the French boat and then onto the Lorient over to the border into Billingate's market, fish market, for example, within the 4 hours, so to speak, if this is really efficient. So if you have a 4 hour pre-notification, it would mean that immediately, the moment the fish is caught, some fisherman in a trawler needs to call someone and say, I've caught these fish and I'm going to send these to you. Please notify them, pre-notify this system, um, and DEFRA of this catching of the fish. So this is a bit weird here because I don't think that the fisherman will want to do that, but all right. And note that that should be a 24-hour notification. And that, of course, is completely out of the question for fresh produce that's been just caught or that needs to have a time sensitive. That's very time sensitive. So therefore, there is some discussion to be had, and if you need to change that time frame, that pre-notification time frame, you need to contact the relevant ports. So hopefully you know your ports, and hopefully you have this as a standard route. So if you need to speak to Immingham or you need to speak to Savington, then they would be able to grant you a derogation because of the nature of your product. Anyway, if you need more information on that, you please reach out. Where would the import notification? So here, of all the notification that we have done, we can search for them. So we have the notification number. We can have all of these informations, and it will go into its database of everything we've declared. So just below, you will see you would see all the results of everything that we have always anything declared for our clients when we make the IPAFFS notification. So we are, as well as trainers, and advisors in customs, we're also filers. So that means we're an agency that does customs declarations for customers. And so therefore we do IPAFFS as well. So we help with the entire process of GVMS, GMRs, IPAFFS. Thanks. So anyway, so here is a lot of information that you can search for, and then you can find a previous declaration that you have made. So if I scroll down, I would now see all my IPAFFS. Obviously, in this public video, I'm not going to share all the hundreds of IPAFFS we've done. So we're just going to move on to the next page and see what we can see there. I've clicked on the start a new notification. So now we're assuming, let's stay with the example. We have fish that we have to declare. So the first thing is, what are you importing? And there you will have to understand if your product is a live animal, if it's a product of animal origin, if it's high-risk food and feed of non-animal origin. There are detailed definition of what that is, and then plants products, and other objects. So, you might want to figure out what other objects are, and again, I can help you with that. But for now, we're going with fish. Let's say that fish has been landed in the French port and is no longer alive. Let's call it a product of animal origin. Okay, so maybe it's gone through already one system of processing. We'll go with products of animal origin. We'll click here. Okay, then you need to select the country of origin. Now that is very straightforward. If you caught fish in French waters, well, then that would be, I guess, France. Now, no, that's not European Union because we don't have that here. We have France here. So we select France, but it can be a little more tricky when you buy a product on a wholesale market. So say you don't buy it in French waters, but you go to Paris onto a market and you buy fish in a box, or in a container. And that comes from where? Well, the French might not be able to tell you. It might be from Malaysia, it might be from India, it might be, and can't identify. And even looking at the label doesn't necessarily see this is the origin of the product. So obviously, if you send that then from France, then you have a question because that product has been bought in France on a market, but is actually from somewhere else. So what is the origin that I'm putting here? Is it Malaysia or Thailand? If I caught, say, shrimp in Thailand and sold it in France, and then, or do I put France here because it was sent from France? Luckily, in our example, it is fresh fish caught that's now dead, and maybe has been cut already a little bit. So this is a French product, and we can save and continue here. And now we've got to input quite a lot of information, but what we see here at the top already is our draft GB shed P, and the shed is a European word. So we are actually creating what's known as a common health entry document. Now, the common part comes from the European Union. It's a relic, if you want, of what they are doing. And so where everybody who does traces in the European Union knows that we are completing a chat. And chat P is just the way we're going to create a notification for animals of or products of animal origin. And then there's different chats that have different input requirements, but depending on whether it's a plant or whether it's a high-risk product of non-animal origin, it'll get a different chat name and a different chat format because the requirements are different, if you kind of get the gist. So if here we have a chat P, we have a draft, and please also note this this detail here. Okay, so GB for Great Britain, 2024 for the year, and then we have the the details here. So that will then become your IPAFFS reference number. And when we Googled, you saw this word between IPAFFS and CDS mismatch. So that will be very relevant when we get to that point. So country of origin is France. Does this consignment require an origin code? So this is only required if the consignment needs a health certificate that shows a region of origin code. So that is something, again, you need to check with your certificate. And again, we can make another video if you on the export health certificate. If you want that, then please let me know. We'll go through an export health certificate. So that's happening. And then the country where from consigned. So this is interesting because now here you can, for example, say that we have imported this from Argentina. So the country of, if we had the fish from Argentina or Malaysia or wherever, then that would indicate that we would put that there. And then where from consigned, well, we bought it on a market in France. So that means it's from, we would put France here. Now, I'll tell you already, the consequence of that is going to be quite interesting because when you put country of origin, Argentina or Thailand, wherever this is from, then the export health certificate might very well have to be from these countries. And that's going to be a challenge because if you are in the supermarket or in a wholesale market, a market in France, and you buy these tins of Argentinian beef or say or fish, you can't ask the saleswoman for an export health certificate. They will not have that. So when you then need an export health certificate and you don't have one, well, then that's not good either because then you won't be able to complete your IPAFFS. If you kind of see what I'm doing here. So for now, to keep it simple, and that might not meet your situation, but let's keep it simple. We're gonna do France, and then we're gonna do France, okay? Because that's where it's consigned from. Does this consignment conform to regulatory requirements? So that is a some new questions that have not been there before. So now there are new questions here, and that requires you to understand the assimilated regulation 7. I've not heard that before, actually. I've heard maintained, retained regulation, but now it's assimilated regulation. And that requires you to understand EU law. So this is your official controls regulation of the EU. And what that means is we have retained the one from 2017 or from 2000 up to 2021. So in the EU changed its official regulations. So sanitary and phytosanitary controls regulations. We have in the UK kept that until 2021. And then we've kind of expanded it and changed it. But the point is we are still applying that legislation. So therefore, you do need to know about EU legislation, even though it's now frozen in time or amended since it's been frozen in time. So it was frozen in time in 2021, and then it got amended only for the UK, for Great Britain. And that's now meaning that there are two regulations, 2017-625. One's the EU version, and then there's the GB version. Anyway, so the point is you need to click there, and then you need to read A to D and see does that conform with it or not. And obviously, um, if you click no, then this stops here. If you click yes, then it means this is a legal declaration. That means you have confirmed that you know this and you have checked that you meet the regulation. So you click yes. Will the consignment change vehicles or means of transport after the border control post? So what does that mean? Well, the border control post is in the UK. So Sevington, for example, in Ashford, Kent. And assuming then after the border post, you say some parts goes to Billingsgate, so you put the fish to Billingsgate's fish market, and then some parts goes to another fish market, say in Reading. And then so you load it into smaller trucks and then you bring it to Reading. So that could be that. And then there might be a reference number that you might need for that. So we're not going to do that. We're going to keep it easy. So then we have commodities. So this is going to be interesting because now you have a commodity searcher. So assuming you know the commodity code, or you have a species search. So here's a species search, and then you need a scientific name or a Latin. Okay, so Ovis aries. So that would be your sheep. And yeah, now you need to know the fish name of what you have caught. So why don't we try that? Let me think of a Latin fish name. I'll be right back. Now you've got to forgive me, but there is, if you know me, there is a history with me and this fish. I cannot, say why that you need to, kind of figure out by speaking to relevant people. But let's just say, one of my favorite animals in the sea is the Japanese flying squid. And it has nothing to do with France, can't be caught in French. So even if I were to put that, that would be ridiculous because there's no way you're going to catch this animal and it would be consigned from France, and that would be logical because it can't, it's a Japanese. But the fact that it's flying, I find really cool. Anyway, squid can fly. Anyway, so yeah, so I have this thing with the Japanese flying squid. And also that's why I know what they're called in Latin. So interestingly, how many people speak Latin? And how many times do you know that your animal has a Latin scientific name and you need it? Yeah, good. So anyway, how do you find Latin names? Well, it's a scientific name, and you know that this is the Torradus pacificus. So we're gonna go with that one, even though it is completely ridiculous to try to import a Japanese flying squid from France. So we're still gonna go with that and see what happens. So I haven't checked that, so let's see what happens when we put that in. So here it is. I've just put it in here. Let's see what happens. I'm going to click enter and let's see if we get anywhere. I don't think we are. So let me try again. Maybe not. Maybe not. Try this again. And there it is. So, okay, it was a loading issue. So let's see what happens. So put that in and then you get to the kind of area of where you want to be. Now you do need the classification of this thing. But it could be now fish, right? And the likes, and preparations of fish, because it could be fish pie, okay, or some sort of version of that. But we're gonna go for the to the road Pacificus that we caught in French waters, right? So we're gonna go for that. It's not this. It's not. Well, it is this because there's the not live fish. So, um, no, it's not that. What? Okay. Right. Okay. Well, apparently these are the only options I have. So be that as it may, we're then going to go for pallets of fish, obviously, because it's not this. So we can have a look and see. Now, what does it mean if you can't find that actual fish? So I was hoping that because I know this actual live fish is in there and in the tariff, and I was hoping I was going to find it, but I can't find it here. And the reason I can't find it here because we're talking about products of animal origin. So we've selected products of animal origin, so we can't deal with the live fish. So what I was thinking is that I'm dealing with my live fish, but I'm not actually. So I can only use product of animal origin. So now we have to assume that this is some version of this fish. So is dead and is now a product of animal origin. And we're going to go with other here. It's something that I consume. So be that as it may, now we have farmed this. This has now turned into this commodity code, and that should match the one that you have decided when you do the classification. So for customs purposes, you need to make sure that now you have a match. So the way I did this was not right. What needs to happen is you need to know what the classification is of the product that you're bringing in, and you need to make sure you match that. That is very important. Otherwise, you're going to get a mismatch. So commodity code must be correct. So probably the way I did it was not the best. Anyway, you now have type of commodity code. So now you got to decide if it's farm stock or wild stock. So that would need you to know what that actually is. So we're assuming it's farmed stock because you won't find that animal in French water. So it should be farmed then. So that could possibly be. And then select the species of the commodity. So now we need to know the Latin name. And now, I mean, so that is definitely something you must know. You must ask for the Latin or scientific name because otherwise you're going to be here for a while. Each of those can now be obviously Googled and then you find out the common commercial name. Can I find mine? Yes, I know I can because it's been found before. So there it is. Okay, so, and that would be a European squid, but this is the Japanese flying squid. This would be the European one. Anyway, and this would be flying squid with the SPP in general. So found mine. Happy days. Do you want to add another commodity? No. And then now the system, when I submit it, will know I'm bringing Japanese flying squid from Center GP. And next up, what's the main reason for this consignment? So you have options: internal market, transshipment on onward travel, transit or re-entry. And this is for the internal market. There's lots we can talk about for the other ones, but we're just not going to do that now. And then we need to clarify what is the purpose of the internal market. So is it animal feeding stuff? Is it human consumption? Is it other? Is it pharmaceutical use, technical use? That all has reasons for that. We're going to go with human consumption. And then if you have a movement reference number, that's an interesting one. So that applies only for common transit. And when you do common transit, it is recommended, although it is optional, that you put this there because this allows you to track and trace the movement as it bridges through the UK. So I will recommend for anyone doing transit to put the movement reference number here because it allows customs and DEFRA and BCP officials to more easily match your IPAFFS to your transit movement. If that doesn't happen and you get selected, then there might be a very good question as to how on earth you're going to check that this import notification actually matches the CDS customs declaration. So save and continue. Select the highest risk category for the commodities of the consignment. So now it is either medium risk or low risk. Because we have products of animal origin, they are not usually high risk. And from what you've selected there with this Japanese flying squid, yeah, it's medium risk quite clearly. But because you selected other, or we selected other, it could also be low risk. It would depend. So for that, we need to check the risk categories, and there's a whole other thing that we might want to talk about here. So we're going to save and continue this, and then you can see that a health certificate is required. And this is where you now need to upload this before the consignment arrives in Great Britain. And that requires you to understand what the health certificate actually looks like, and it will require you to get it. And that is a whole different scenario. So if the fish was in France, you would need to call the French state, get the veterinary officer to come certify against the right model certificate that you can find either on gov.uk or in Traces. So the French person would not go to model health certificate on gov.uk, will go into Traces and will work and complete the electronic version of this, send it off to the vet electronically. The vet will check it and either come and inspect the fish, hopefully not, because then probably the fish will go off if you have to pre-notify 24 hours and wait for the French vet. At the quayside, then probably you're not going to have much Japanese flying squid by the time it reaches Billingsgate. Anyway, be that as it may, so you've seen what we've just done. We've done just this, and it took us quite a while already. Now, and this is for one product. Now, imagine you have 1,000 of them. How are you going to do that? Well, there are bots that you can work with as well, but that's a different matter. Then the description of the goods to do. So we're going to go into commodity and additional details. Then we have documents to do. So the catch certificate. So that's yet another thing we need to worry about. Latest health certificate. So might be two things we need to add here. Accompanying document. And this is just to explain to the health authorities that what we're doing is in line with legislation and that the catch is safe to consume, because we're saying it's fit for human consumption. So then we need to evidence that that's the case. And then addresses, where is it going to, who's sending it, who's moving it. And then you can scroll down further and you have transport information here. Where does the port of entries and so on, contact details. That's really, 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 really important. Contact details means you're going to put my name, but you also need to give the contact details of the one receiving the goods and the driver information. So including mobile number of the driver. Why? Because if this is selected for control, then somebody needs to be notified to drive to the BCP. And it is the driver, and the driver needs a notification on their phone. So if you don't give the number, there's no notification possible. And then I will be notified. I might be the importer, but I might sleep by the time that the driver is, arriving in Dover. They catch the fish at 3 in the morning and they land it by 4. They drive to Dover by 5. By 6, hopefully I'm still sleeping. Yet then this IPAFFS notification, which last night I did and was okay, now is no longer okay because it's been risk assessed and selected for control. So therefore, you need to make sure that the contact details are here. I'm just gonna not go through every detail here now because that will take too long for the video. But I'll just complete it now, and then I'll see you for the end result. But let me know in the comments down below if you want me to go through the details of that, and I can make another video. So just bear with me as I complete this quickly, and then I'll show you how it looks at the end. Would you believe, there I was trying to complete everything, and look what I got. And no matter what I try, I've been trying to push this IPAFFS, and it still gives me internal server error. And this is a critical error with the service. Please try it again later. And that means I can't proceed. But what would have happened if I had completed everything? It would have given me a complete summary of everything, and then it would have given me, and that's what I wanted to show you. I'll show you in another video, the opportunity to copy the shed reference, the IPAFFS reference. So I've shown you the IPAFFS reference before, and this is important. Why? Because there is a match function between CDS, the Customs Declaration Service, and the chat system that we're using, the IPAFFS system. And the chat number, the IPAFFS number, has a certain format, as I've shown you with the draft, but the way it needs to be communicated in the Customs Declaration Service is different. So that means you need to make sure that you follow the right format that is different in CDS from IPAFFS. And that's important because if you don't follow the exact format as CDS needs it, containing the notification numbers of the IPAFFS, there is no match, which means that the customs declaration can't know or will know that you've done an IPAFFS, but can't match whether the content is the same. And that's important because CDS checks the commodity code. So if the commodity code is not correct, then you get an error, a no match. And also kilograms, gross and net, I think, are also checked. So if that's not right, and there is no match between the customs declaration and the IPAFFS notification, then you get an error as well. And so it might be that your consignment is actually not risky. There's no problem with it from a DEFRA point of view, but you still get checked because of an error in administration. Does that make sense? So that is something that you need to be very, very careful. I wanted to show it to you, but as you can see, we have yet another issue, which is there's an internal server error. Now, try to complete hundreds of IPAFFS declaration when you can't even get through the IT system because there is an internal, not me, their internal error system from the DEFRA side. So then, of course, we have no chance and might even need to think about workarounds. But the point is you complete all this information and you really need to go through step by step. And I would have loved to show you the rest of it, but maybe we'll do another video because this is getting quite long. And that requires what's the lesson here? The lesson is, number one, you need to understand your supply chain. You know, if you have fresh fish that needs to go to billing gates, you need to find a way to get it to the UK sooner than 24 hours pre-notification. Pre-notification doesn't really work in this case. A 24-hour pre-notification is what. Secondly, you need to know your stuff. You need to know things like Latin names. You need to know the weights, the gross and the brut. You need to know who's transporting it, what the routing is. You need to know how many of this fish you're going to catch, if at all. And there's lots of more information that you need. This is why you need to look at IPAFFS prior to you importing anything into the UK. And then you also need to appreciate that that is just one part of the puzzle. There are lots of other parts, including getting an EHC. There's also the part where you have to risk categorize the whole thing. Is it low, medium, high risk? That hopefully you only have to do once, because if you reship this again the following week, you wouldn't have this problem, hopefully, because you've done it all before. And once you've done the IPAFFS correctly, you can just clone it and change a few if it's still the Japanese flying square. And the weights just changed, and that is much easier than having to retype the whole thing. And obviously, if you have a contractual relationship that doesn't change every week, then once you put the trader in and the importer and the consignee and where it's going and whatnot, then that should be okay as well. Obviously, the means of transport, the truck could change, so the number plate will change, and the likes of it. So as you can see, this needs preparation. This needs knowledge, and this needs awareness of how the whole system works. And this is why we've designed a course. One of the ways that we can spend more time together than just watching you passively watching this video is to get with me and to talk about it in a way where you can actually ask questions. So I invite you to study the website and find training programs on SPS and veterinary controls. And then one part of that is us walking through IPAFFS, and then without interruptions, because we have screenshots, so the government can't stop us there. And then we will also explain all the rest of it. So that would mean what's SPS, what does the WTO say about that, what does in the case of the EU, UK, what does the Trade and Cooperation Agreement say about that? Then what's the process of getting a product from the UK to the EU market, an SPS product, and vice versa. And we're going to spend quite a lot of time thinking about traces. We're going to spend quite some time thinking about how do we notify the IPAFFS, what are the risk categories, and how does the EU do it. We'll look at the different categories. So we'll look at live animals, we'll look at PWOW goods, we'll look at ABP goods, we will look at plants, we will look at high-risk goods of non-animal origin. So we're going to cover all these categories Now, in 4 hours, we can't do all the details of it, but we will give you a very good understanding of how you deal with food and plants and products of animal origin. So why not book yourself on one of the trainings that are coming up? And then I will see you on the other side. I'd love to talk to you, love to discuss with you how you're getting on and what the challenges are that you encounter, and then we can make it happen. So I'm sorry I couldn't give you the full tour now. I was planning to, but then internal error happened and I refreshed and refreshed and waited and it didn't happen. And I thought it's important to get this video out. So here it is. But doesn't mean we can't meet again on with this channel and to talk about it again. So if you have any questions about what I've showed you, just leave it in the comments down below. And then I'll happy to pick it up and reach out to you and then we can have a discussion. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I wish you a great day. And yeah, keep importing, keep exporting, keep doing your thing. See you later.